Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. It's a meeting of the Seward City Council on Monday, February 13th, 2023. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Chief, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Tonight's roll call: Finch.
Here.
Osenga.
Here.
Calhoun.
Here.
Wells.
Here.
Barnwell is excused. DeMoss.
Here.
Mayor McClure.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We're now to citizen comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearing. We have 2 items for public hearing. And you'll get 3 minutes, 36-minute total. And we've reposted some rules about speaking at the end of each of these things, and we've kind of reconfigured. So when you come up to speak, you'll be sitting at the desk there, and that mic is on. Madam Clerk, who's signed up?
The first speaker signed in is Bailey Saylor.
Bailey Saylor, outside city limits, library director. So I just wanted to bring to y'all's attention some events we have going on. So tomorrow, Valentine's Day, we've got a movie from 3:30 to 5 p.m. All ages are welcome. February 16th, we are starting back story time, and it starts at 11:15 a.m. And for Heart Health Month, we are doing gentle yoga, and it'll be this Saturday, February 18th at 10 a.m. And then we are also doing an adult paint night, and that is February 18th as well, and it starts at 5 p.m. and it is beginner level. I'm teaching it, so yes, beginner level. February 28th at 10 a.m., we have the Seward Family Dentistry coming to the library to teach about Dental Health Month, because it is also Pediatric Dental Health Month. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next.
Next signed in is Pat Messmer.
Hi, I'm Pat Messmer from Outside City Limits. I currently work for the City of Seward. I'd like to thank the council for bringing up the pay issue last time when they were talking about the holiday. It seemed like you were supportive. More pay will always help as far as retaining people and attracting new ones. I appreciate what you guys have done in the past. If I had a wish list on it, I'd like to have our patrol officers raised up about 10%. That'd make us even with Homer. Or not quite even, but closer. And another idea I had, and these are just ideas, I take anything that can happen, is we have 2 COLAs coming in our contract next year and the year after at 1.5%. If maybe those could be paid just early this year and then the next 2 years be 0. Just spitballing some ideas. Then I'm going to focus on something else after that. The Seward Police Department currently spends $64,000 to train a police officer. That's the amount of pay we pay the recruit while they're in the academy and while they're with their FTO, where we don't get any service out of them. They're always with someone else. That's also the academy fees and the extra we pay the training officer, which is like 2.5%. One thing I think that would help in the long run, as far as retaining police officers and first responders, including like the new fire position we have, is if the city council would pass a resolution to support HB 22. HB 22 is a defined benefit, like a pension plan that the House is currently trying to pass right now. I testified in front of them the other day for this. Since 2006, we've been losing people. When I say we, the state of Alaska has been losing people at a rate that's gotten faster and faster each year because we're losing our Tier 3 people. And when they leave, the new people coming on Tier 4, they leave within around 5 years. That's when they get their portion that the state pays or the city pays into their retirement. That's hollowing out our police departments and our fire departments as far as experience goes. That's made it to where our police departments have gotten less and less experience on the road, so we're less able to prevent crime. The officers are less safe. Alaska is currently the leading state in violent crime in the country. Our officers are assaulted at 64.6% of Alaska police officers were assaulted last year in line of duty. That's the highest in the country. I'd like to share with you an incident that happened to me in 2020, just to bring home that Seward can be dangerous too. In 2020, I got in a fight with this individual. I came in to back up another officer, and in the tussle, I ended up having a gun pointed in my head. It was pretty scary. It took a while to get over that. So it's dangerous here too, and anything you guys could do to help. But if supporting that bill would very much help us. If you could pass a resolution to support it, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Next signed in is Daryl Schaefermeyer.
Daryl Schaefermeyer, inside the city limits. I just would like to today give a few comments in memory of Louis Bencardino. I worked and knew Louis for a lot of years in all kinds of capacities. Most of us here lived here a period of time remember him as chief of police, but he did a lot for this community, and we can look around and if you look at the Marine Industrial Center, you look at the coal export facility, you look at the prison, you look at all of those things, Louis had a substantial role and hand in making those possible. He had a unique association and affiliation with a lot of rural legislators in the time that I worked with the city. Back in the 70s and 80s. And that was in a time when Prudhoe Bay money was being apportioned around the state for projects. I don't know if any of you know this, but Seward was successful in receiving the highest per capita percentage of Prudhoe Bay capital money appropriated by the legislature in the state's history. That allowed the community to do a lot of things that we're now beneficiaries of today. The Forsyth Creek developments, the Marine Industrial Center, the prison, the coal export facility, the Alaska Sea Life Center, all of those things that have made this community in substantial ways an economic stable area to be and to live. And Louis was very instrumental in that, and I want the community to know that. I hope that, I know tonight the council's recognizing Louis, but I hope that there's going to be some plans for some permanent recognition of something in this community to remember him by, because he really did open the doors for so much help to this community through his efforts and through his very quiet affiliations in ways that only he could do that. I traveled with him many times. We made many road trips, flight trips together, and I just can't say enough about what that gentleman means to this community, and I hope we can remember that. We'll do that tonight with this memoriam, but I hope we can do something much more permanently that we can have here, that visitors and all of us, our children, grandchildren, can see and get to know him a little bit through his memory. I thank you for what you're doing tonight.
Thank you, Darrell. Madam Clerk?
Madam Mayor, last signed in is Tim McDonald.
Yeah, Tim let me go first, so.
Wait, this is it, yeah?
If that's all right. Suspend the rules.
Let's have Tim, because he
Okay.
signed up, and then you can go. There's time for people who didn't sign up after.
Tim McDonald, inside the city limits. Well, this is a whole another feel. I feel like the 7th council member. I like that stuff about historic opportunities and somebody looking out for Seward. I think there's been a lot of people over the years that unsung. I think the project at $185 million for the new tunnel is a unique opportunity for Seward. in that it's in the planning phases right now. We don't want to bug them or get them mad, but it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's not peanuts. That's a lot of money. And you know, nothing is in a vacuum. That second tunnel can set up the first tunnel to generate a lot of electricity if we wanted to. And my feeling is, you know, God bless everybody for all the work on the sale, and it doesn't really matter whether it's Chugach or Homer or Seward that runs the electrical utility. If we dedicated ourselves, I think we could produce 100% of our own electricity within 10 years. You know, starting with that tunnel, which is almost a free gift. They're going to do all the work. All we got to do is set up a few generators. And, you know, I mean, there's energy, things are happening so fast with energy generation, especially ocean energy generation. You've got seaweed type tentacles that lay on the bottom that move with the tide like the air dancers, those human figures they set up in front of car dealerships and stuff. These do the same thing, and as they undulate, they create electricity. Set them up in 20-foot grids, hundreds of them, and you know, hydraulic sidewalks where the pressure of people walking on them generates electricity. And we're a small community. We can do these sorts of things. We should be leading, not, you know, trying to stay back in the last century. There's just, you know, we're tying our hands a little bit, and I'm sure Homer will do a good job if they end up with it, but I do think that we're missing a trick if we don't at least go on a dual path, setting ourselves up in the next decade or two to produce our own electricity. The problem is the transmission lines. Every winter we have shutdowns because of avalanches or earthquakes or floods. Organic electricity here is not near as vulnerable. So I hope somebody starts taking that to heart and takes the bit between their teeth and does something about it.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
I don't have anyone else signed it. I'm just going to remind the public that this is for comments of items not on the public hearing. Okay. So, who else wants to comment?
Was there anything in there? Did I do anything?
No, you're fine. Yeah. I was just concerned. Yeah. I'm letting him know that his item's a public hearing, so he doesn't embarrass himself. But if you want to talk about anything else.
I already did that, so. Wolf Kurtz, Outside City Limits, also with Kenai Mountains Public Media. The subject, we've got an agenda item, a resolution coming up for public hearing, 2023-013. In a little bit. So these are my comments. I'm going to hand these to I'm just going to read from this page, so, and I'll hopefully be available to answer any questions. But I have another hat on tonight, so I might have to leave, so I'll just go ahead and hand these over, and then if I'm not here, then, I don't know, maybe George will want to say something. He's also on the board. But, and I also would like to take this opportunity to say that we're an all-volunteer nonprofit, and with all, you know, with a board, and among the other nonprofits in this community, we're often shorthanded. I think there's a lot of nonprofits. I'll put a specific plug in for the Homeless Connection. I was looking for folks to help out on their board, and you know, all these working boards in this community would really appreciate more folks if they could step up and help do some work. Some of the nonprofit volunteer work around town. I know I have 2 or 3 hats, and a lot of other people do too. So new blood is always appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, and you could give that to the clerk, please. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak? Bruce?
Mind if I stand?
Is it difficult to sit?
I'll try it. Okay. The last meeting that you guys had, the topic of cleaning sidewalks came up. Tonight, when I came to town, I left our building, McMullen's building, where my staff, our staff, cleans the sidewalk. The wind blows across vacant fields and fills up an adjoining sidewalk. We walked across the street to the Apollo for dinner, and the wind loads that side of the street up. When I walked into this building tonight, and parked out here, the sidewalk has got ice on it. I think they do a good job of removing it. I think there, frankly, are cities that take on sidewalk cleaning as a task. And so it becomes a citywide uniform cleaning. Now, how those are paid for, if it's with an assessment to property owners or contribution, if it's a private organization, I don't know. But we faced this for many years, shoveling our sidewalk, and then the wind blowing someone else's snow onto someone else's snow, the snow from somewhere else onto our adjacent sidewalk. So this is an ongoing problem, and businesses like the Sea-Bean, which appears to be closed, aren't doing anything. But again, the wind is blowing over there. So this is both just a comment to advocate for some sort of a citywide sidewalk cleaning, at least in the business district, and for the heat pump loop, which could bring this sidewalk into a melted, very, very nice surface. So.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? I see bodies out there. It's your last chance for this section. Okay, seeing none, we'll close this citizen comment time and move to the approval of the agenda and consent agenda, and I would need a motion and a second, please.
Move for the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any changes that anybody wants to make on the agenda or consent agenda? And I don't have any. So I guess, Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote on the agenda and consent agenda.
Voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda. Osega?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda are approved, and approved on tonight's consent agenda. The January 23rd, 2023 City Council special meeting minutes and the January 23rd, 2023 City Council regular meeting minutes. You have introduced ordinance 2023-003, amending Seward City Code, Chapter 3.50 holidays. This ordinance will come for public hearing and enactment on February 27th, 2023. You have approved Resolution 2023-014, authorizing the city manager to execute R&M Engineering Task Order Number 2734.29, completing required survey work and producing a professionally sealed as-built drawing of the line substation in the amount of $15,765 and appropriating funds. You have approved Resolution 2023-015, authorizing the city manager to purchase 6 115 kV voltage transformers from Instrument Transformer Equipment Corporation in the amount of $67,122, plus a 10% contingency for installation in the Fort Raymond substation and appropriating funds. Resolution 2023-016, authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the contract between the City of Seward and Yukon Fire Protection to include the new animal shelter in the service contract. Resolution 2023-017, accepting and appropriating animal shelter donations in the amount of $20,611.57, collected until December 31st, 2022. To fund expenses related to the new animal shelter and appropriating funds. Resolution 2023-018, authorizing the city manager to purchase from Royal Switchgear 9 115 kV vertical brake switches for installation in the Fort Raymond substation in a not-to-exceed amount of $167,455 and appropriating funds. Resolution 2023-019, supporting and requesting the City of Seward be re-established as an active port for the Alaska Marine Highway System. Resolution 2023-020, updating the mobile vendor and roving vendor policy for permitting vendors on city-owned property. And finally, you have approved action memorandum 2023-001, accepting the resignation of Brandy O'Regan from the Port and Commerce Advisory Board and directing the city clerk to advertise the vacant PACAB seat.
Thank you. Now to special orders, presentations, and awards. And we have one in memoriam. And I will read this for my friend Louis Bencardino. Louis Bencardino was born and raised in Pennsylvania. Before he even finished high school, Louis signed up for the U.S. Army and was stationed in Germany during the Korean War. In 1960, Louis came to Alaska and served on police forces in Fairbanks, Palmer, Glen Allen, Nome, and the Marshall Island. In 1975, Louis moved to Seward to be the chief of police, a role in which he served until 1991. Following his retirement in 1991 until late 1994, Louis served on the Seward City Council. He then served for 1 year on the Port and Commerce Advisory Board, and then was elected as Seward's mayor from 1995 to 1997. Over the course of those 6 years of service, Louis contributed to the continued development of the Seward Marine Industrial Center, the extension of Nash Road, and the creation of the Alaska Sea Life Center and a new hospital. Louis married Diane Carlson in 1995 and started a family. They had 4 children. In 2016, after 13 years of service, Louis retired again from the Alaska Railroad Corporation. During his tenure with the railroad as the Seward Dock and Real Estate Manager, Louis consistently advocated for upgrades and improvements to the facilities and docks. He also fought to enable locals to use the Dale R. Lindsay Intermodal Terminal for activities and events. Louis was described as service-oriented, knowledgeable, professional, and accommodating by the people he served. His devotion to Seward and his dedication to the community was always his priority. He had a warm smile and a quick wit, and he is missed by all who knew him. On behalf of the Seward City Council, I extend our deepest condolences and present this special recognition in memoriam to the family of Louis Bencardino, dated this 13th day of February 2023, signed by myself, Sue McClure, Mayor. And I could tell Louis stories. I first met Louis, well, he was chief of police, but it was early on, and I was friends with a state senator up in Fairbanks, and I would come down, I'm not going to tell all the stories, but I would come down and see him and bring things from the senator to him that they collected. And I've known Louis for a long time. When I moved back after being gone all those years and ran into him, it was immediate recognition. He was a very kind man. I saw him a lot when he would be sitting at No Sweat Auto, visiting with people before the pandemic, and I'd just stop by and visit with him. Anyway, Louis was really special. And when I was in Juneau with others a month ago, I was in Senator Gary Stevens' office. He had not heard about Louis' passing and asked me to, when we got our in memoriam, to send that to them because he's doing a state in memoriam for Louis, and we'll be sending that up, his office is. And so we've accomplished that, they're working on that, and it should be done pretty quick. And all of this will go to the families, so I just want to just honor Louis, as Darrell said. Very important and significant person in this town. Thank you. And now the city manager report. Mr.
Right.
Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few things. First off, the public workshop project continues on in earnest. The city manager requested a special meeting at 5:30 on March 13th. We'll provide council and the public a draft project schedule and then just talk about next steps with that project. We're really excited to be moving that ball down the field. Second thing, we had a housing meeting, a housing community conversation that was tentatively scheduled for March 2nd. We're going to have to delay that until probably at some point in time in the future. Tim Dillon was going to be our grand marshal of the community conversation, and he had an issue come up, so we're going to have to find a date probably this fall when that'll work. Third thing, talking to a couple council members and members of the public over the last couple weeks, and the fund balance information in the agenda statements is not extremely clear. For those of us, Suli, myself, that deal with it every day, it's probably really clear. But just in some conversations, the finance team is going to look at ways to articulate that fund balance information in a way that really takes into account, as an example, the electric bond. And we're going to find a way to kind of articulate that information to the council and the public in a way that's probably a little bit more clear in the future. And then I'll ask Norm to come up, and he's going to give you guys an update on what Dive Alaska found last week when they were over at SMIC doing a little bit of work.
Thank you, Council. So Dive Alaska just started this training program to get divers come down to just dive to certain sections of the harbor and clean it. And so they came down with actually 75 people on that beautiful Saturday that we had. And they found quite a bit of stuff. I think it was quite a bit, but for them, they said it wasn't a lot. We actually have a pretty clean harbor. So they're going to come back in a few more years, maybe do another section of the harbor, but they did where the fishermen go, with fishing boats, and they found batteries and stuff like that, and knives and buoys and coolers full of water. But it was nice, and you can see the pictures in the book how nice it was. And so I just want to give them recognition for that.
Thanks.
And photos from that are in your packet at the end of this. So, thank you, Norm. And that's all I have.
Okay. Are there questions or comments from council about the city manager report?
I'd just like to say
Councilmember
thanks
Calhoun.
for working on the finance information, just make it a little more clear for everybody. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any others? Okay, very nice. Seeing none, city clerk report. It's on page 66, and our clerk wants to speak to that.
I just want to highlight a couple of things. Tomorrow is election day for the borough mayor, and the election will be in this room, and it will go from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow. And the deputy city clerk, we're preparing for a student exchange this year with Obihiro Japan. We're all assuming it's going to happen again, like we wished it was last year. In advance of that, he's working on another special project with the students at the Seward High School. They have a culinary class, and there's some students in Obihiro, and they're going to do a shared cooking challenge. So they have American recipes, and our students will have Japanese recipes, and they'll cook these creations and videotape themselves, and then they'll get together through Zoom and share their experiences. So it should be kind of fun for them and hopefully generate some interest in the exchange program. And then the last thing, I appreciate you, council, approving the resolution to update the mobile and roving vendor program. So we opened for renewals on Wednesday morning, and we already have some returning vendors who have expressed interest. And then the two new locations for vendors will be at Benny Benson and over near Branson Pavilion, and we have interest in one of those spots already. So, thank you very much.
Excellent. City attorney report. It's on page 67, and we have Mr. Severin here. Would you like to speak to it?
Sure, yes, thank you. I'll keep it brief. I think the big thing that jumps out there that's demanding a lot of our time is the utility potential transaction there and some of the due diligence and contract review. It's a fun process. We'll hear more about that in a minute, a little bit more about the utility. Advised, this whole report by its nature kind of has to be an exercise in brevity, and it's been a little cryptic at times, but it says, we advised on multiple personnel matters, and just to give just a little flavor to what that incredibly concise, what that means, that ranges all the way from a 15-minute phone call about does FMLA apply in this situation, or if so, how? All the way to considerably more complicated, discipline type issues or those kind of things. So talk more about those always privately, but you see, advise sounds like a handful of 15-minute phone calls or something. There's considerably more going on that front than others. The last one I just wanted to mention is potential enforcement action regarding short-term rentals. And I've mentioned this before, but it's been a while. I enjoy, it's a relatively new code, and so some of that's just advice on how to tackle it, how to interpret it. I've done a lot of code enforcement over the years for Anchorage initially, and then many communities that we represent now. And I enjoy that because a lot of times, for a specific reason, which is that those codes exist, but they're fairly hard to, as a practical matter, from a city employee to go implement and do effective enforcement, just a citation or what can be done, and I just have a lot of experience with that. And the process of going from, yes, we have this code on the books, to what can we do to actually enforce it is challenging, not just for Seward, but for basically every community. So I'm looking forward to being of help with that, and always cooperation and compliance is the goal with any of those, not yielding wielding a bigger stick, hopefully. So thanks for allowing me to be here. No, unless there's questions, leave it at that.
Okay, are there questions for Sam? Nice report. Thank you. Okay, so now we're down to presentations, and we have one from the Homer Electric Association. Brad Janarski will offer a report, and he's got some slides.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for your time tonight. And generally, I'll give a second for the city clerk to put that in presentation mode.
Thank you.
You bet. And I was making a bunch of notes on this before I started, so at the hotel, so I thought, I'll just keep my notes here. Just to back up here, for the record, my name is Brad Janorski, General Manager, Homer Electric Association. Actually, I've had that role for 19 years now. And for Homer Electric, we serve the western side of the Kenai Peninsula, from Sterling and Nikiski on the north, all the way down to Port Graham and then Wallach on the south. So the entire western side of the peninsula. And as I remind my board, when I started this job, it was long, dark hair, tall and handsome, and now you can see the color of my hair, and I tell them that wasn't for my kids. So with that, just backing up a hair, your city clerk was way too kind. So in addition to tomorrow being Kenai Borough Mayor's election, my wife gently reminded me tomorrow's Valentine's Day for you guys. So I took the hint subtly, and we'll move forward, and no response required from the men in this room. So with that, I've got a short presentation. I'm watching the clock. I only got 6 slides. I'll go through quickly. And one of the reasons I wanted my notes is just because I've got a few examples I did not want to forget to mention. Because really we're looking at this, as I've talked before, as a partnership between our two utilities. There's more value in a conversation between us than there is having me sit and give you a PowerPoint presentation. So I'll try and get done quickly so you can ask questions, because I think that's much more valuable for both the utilities. I'll give you a little bit of background on HEA and some of our strategic direction. Also talk about why I think that we're stronger together. And you'll notice from our vision and mission statements that there, both our mission and our vision include innovative energy solutions at fair and reasonable prices. And even today, that is our board's directive moving forward. So we take a lot of pride in that, and that still is our focus today on the HEA board. The next slide, I'm not going to read this in its entirety. I know you guys have the presentation. One of the things I do want to mention, though, as I mentioned to the sewer electric employees this morning, our industry is rapidly changing, and the new wave of regulations that are coming our way, really starting today and in the next couple of years, are extensive and will impact how we do our business. I thought when I got into this business over 3 decades ago, it would be a mature industry, and today nothing's further from the truth. Not only from the technology changing, but from the new regulations that are coming, quite frankly, from the state level, as well as the federal, but primarily the state level. If you're not sure, follow. I'm sure that your utility manager attorney has updated you in the past on the RRC or the ERO. That will have a significant impact on all the utilities on the rail belt, whether you're economically regulated from the Regulatory Commission today or not. You will be impacted if you're connected to the system. So it is a scary thought, at least for me it is, and if it's not for you, or I tell my board too, if you're not scared about it, read a little more up on it and it'll scare you to death. So with that, sorry, Brenda, I'm trying to, no, you're doing great.
Okay.
So, again, our goal is to build in resources. There was a handout given to you, a two-sided, one for the consumers or customers of Seward, the opposite side for members of Homer Electric. I thought it was important, and I say I, and it wasn't I, it was we, because I've got a great team that I work with. Both parties can see the benefits to each utility moving forward. It's interesting, one of the things our focus is on, and you can read this, is working together. We think we can improve our collective ability to retain good paying jobs in the Kenai Peninsula. We did that back in 2013 when we decided to become independent, and we did. Instead of paying for high paying jobs in Anchorage and Beluga, we brought them to the Kenai Peninsula. We are finding it takes a lot to keep good employees. We just had a mid-level IT individual move over to one of the big three, Yahoo, Google, Amazon, pick your, I don't remember which one it was, $350,000 for 20, well, I'll be HR respective, 26 to 29-year-old person in IT. Got paid to stay at home, work from home, working for one of those big IT companies for $350,000 a year. And it's like, how do we compete? We can't. So, however, I will put our IT team against anybody in the state. I am that confident in their abilities, but you can't, as they say, you can't keep up with the Joneses, and that's a perfect example. So, one of the things we do, how many of you have heard of INN before? INNEC? Iliamna, Nundalton, New Halen Electric Cooperative. It's on the west side of Cook Inlet. We partnered with them years ago. We get poles for them. We marry their material orders, particularly poles on top of our order. They went from $5,000 per pole delivered to Iliamna to about $1,500. Amazing. So those are some of the things that we look together. That's just one example. We look at using that same economies of scale, trying to keep up with the new regulations, whether it's cybersecurity, some of the manpower issues that we deal with today, continue to work together. Next one, please. Stronger together. I won't go through all these bullets, but I do want to talk about vision for growth on the upper right, diversify our future energy portfolio. There is advantages of getting bigger together. When I was down in Juneau 2 weeks ago, we testified, we being the rail belt managers from Homer to Fairbanks, testified on some of the issues going on within the utilities right now, including natural gas. One example that Golden Valley's CEO mentioned, if they build a 40 megawatt wind project today up in the Fairbanks area, it costs them about 10 cents a kilowatt hour. If they increase that to 100 megawatts, it drops down to 6 to 6.5 cents. One of our board's goal is to diversify our generation portfolio and not put upward pressure on rates. The only way we can do that is go big. As one of my engineers says, go big or go home when it comes to renewables. So we found that both working with you guys and working with the other rail belt utilities, we can gain that economies of scale that meets what our customers and members want. First and foremost, behind safety. It's every time the light switch comes on, every time they flip the switch, the lights come on, and they're paying a reasonable rate for power. And then that drops down to the bottom two bullets, cost-effective rates. Again, one of the way of doing that, as I tell my existing board, if we had 5 fuel suppliers in Cook Inlet, it might be a different conversation. 90% of all of our electricity we produce today is from natural gas. All of that energy is coming from one supplier. There are options out there. We are working on them. We are working on them with other utilities, and we are looking at diversifying that generation mix today. We are looking at landfill gas projects. We are looking at large solar projects. We are looking at large wind projects. As one of the employees asked me today, where are you looking at wind? I said, in the perfect place, not in my backyard. So I promised my current board I would not put wind turbines on our balance sheet, and I still won't do that today. One is it's aesthetically a challenge. Onshore, offshore, we're still looking at that, but that's separate. But preferably up at Fairbanks. And one is it reduces the transmission constraints and the losses on the existing facilities that we have today in Alaska. And then lastly, building a new brand, as you guys saw from our bid proposal, creating a new utility under the 2 organizations. So it would no longer be Homer Electric, but we would like some representation from this community on our board, and then together coming up. We floated some ideas around, but we want everybody to participate. One of the ideas we suggested is Kenai Peninsula Electric Energy Cooperative, KPEC. I don't know if it's good or bad. It's kind of what we've looked at so far, but we do want input from everybody that's involved. So, and then lastly, hit one more time, please. You've got another handout that lists, at least for later in this month, the times that we're going to be around the area. I'm talking to residents and anybody interested in learning more about Homer Electric, some of the programs that we're doing, and answering any questions they have. And not that we have all the answers, because we don't. Some of those, it's like I told the employees this morning, is, it's one step at a time. So we want everybody to vote, but we want everybody that votes to be informed and have an informed vote. So, thank you.
That was amazing. 10 minutes, just like. Thank you very much. I'll open it for questions if any of the council members have questions for Mr. Janerski. I know we've been pretty well filled in on what's happening, and I know the public, we get questions from them, but I think you've got quite a series of presentations now, opportunities for the public to come and ask questions. And I see that, some of them are fairly small rooms, places, so, you'll be able to one-on-one with some of them or with your people, so that's good. That's going to be posted everywhere. It's out there now on Facebook. The clerk has sent it out to everybody on her list. And you can pick and choose the time or come more than once to ask questions, right?
That's exactly right, ma'am.
I'm seeing lots of nods from you. Okay, so council members, is there anything? Yes, Councilmember Wells.
I just want to say thank you for putting this together. This is one of the exact things that we had requested in the very beginning, and you're on top of the ball already, and I think the community is going to be very appreciative of it, so thank you all.
Through the chair, I appreciate you using the term "you" loosely, because there's a whole team behind me that really does a lot of this. We tried to get it early enough to catch and inform consumers and customers and citizens before they made a decision, but not too late in the process. So we're trying to time it. We'll be around a lot between now and the beginning of May. But this was intentional of waiting this late because it's still far enough away, probably 10 weeks from the election. So we're trying to find that balance.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I just wanted to comment again, just in case people haven't been paying attention, that the vote, the election on whether or not to sell the utility, if we sell, it will be to Homer Electric. That's May 2nd, a special election. So we've got till May 2nd to process this. And there's a lot to process for a lot of people. So I would take advantage of these interactive times, and also you could probably just call down there and ask questions too. Would you be open at your offices for people just to ask things?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor, they can, and if we don't answer, leave a message, we always call back within 24 hours.
Okay. Okay. Any other? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for that.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you for being here. This now brings us to public hearings. We'll have two public hearings. I'll read you the rules of public hearings first. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. After all speakers have spoken, a person may speak for a second time for no more than 1 minute, so you can get a little. I'm also allowing people to move out while I'm talking away here. And I don't think we need a break yet, do we? Okay, so we'll just move along. And the first public hearing, I'm kind of stalling while they get out the door. The first public hearing is on an ordinance for enactment. It is ordinance 2023-002. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Ordinance 2023-002 is amending Seward City Code Title II Administration. This ordinance was introduced on January 23rd, 2023, and is coming tonight for public hearing and enactment.
Okay, thank you. So we don't need a motion to, we do. Oh, because it was introduced, okay.
Yep.
I knew I'd mess that up. So I need a motion to enact and a second, please.
I'll move to enact ordinance 2023-002.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, would you like to?
Madam Mayor, this is actually the clerk's ordinance.
Okay, so
Sure.
when you're ready, Madam Clerk, if you'd speak to this.
This ordinance will complete the recodification process for Title II. We need that door open. It has to stay open.
So they have to talk quietly out there. Okay, did you have other things? Yeah.
So it completes the recodification. No, that's it.
Okay,
That's all I have
in
to
a
say.
nutshell. Okay. Any additional?
The only other addition I would add is we will continue to bring forth standalone ordinances for this section of code and others as well.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing for, or on, ordinance 2023-002. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed in?
Madam Mayor, we have no one signed in.
Okay, no one has signed in for this. This is the one on administration. Is there anyone out there that wants to speak? Yes, come forward and, Bruce, sorry. And you get to sit down again. We get to watch you sit down again. And we need your name.
Bruce Jaffa, outside city limits. I've tried to go through this document, and I understand it to be an upgrade and a remodel and a cleansing of a lot of document verbiage. Most of it I have not bothered to look at. I assume someone else has, but the area that deeply concerns me is the Port and Commerce Advisory Board. This is something, this came to us in our last meeting. We did not have a chance to discuss it. It's on the agenda for our next meeting, which is Wednesday. I have been made aware that there are citizens who are also very concerned that the language not be changed to the point of changing the mission or understanding of what the mission is or can be for PACAP. I would speak for a broad mandate for an advisory board, and I have drafted a resolution to ask PACAP to bring back to council to include some previous issues in our priority list. But the drafting document, said this board will be created. Obviously, it has been created. If, that's a minor editorial change. But changing the title, for instance, from Port and Commerce to Port Commerce, for instance, has a significant different take. So I was a little concerned that tonight's meeting was going to move a little bit quicker with this change, but I would just ask that council allow the different boards, and I assume planning and zoning and the Heritage Group also have the same kinds of changes. We will consider this, and quite frankly, some of the changes are language changes, and I'm not a scholar. If they need to be improved, that's fine, but I think it's very important not to destroy what's been in place since at least 1994 and has served this community very well, and with a broad mandate can continue to serve it well.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on ordinance 2023-002? Last chance. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Council, questions, comments, discussion. Councilmember Wells.
I'd like to address what Mr. Jaffa just stated. So we're voting this evening to accept these changes. Then I would like to make a motion to suspend our vote until after the boards have a chance to review a second time and bring it back for a vote.
Would you be wanting to move to postpone then until that time?
Yes, please. I'd like to move to postpone for 30 days to whatever the fourth meeting is after this one.
Fourth meeting. Okay, is there a second to that? Okay, we have motion and a second. Discussion. Is there a discussion about the postponement? Yeah.
So the reason why I would like to postpone this is because I have had some other people with other boards contact me regarding these changes, and I personally haven't had enough time to really delve in and be prepared to make a vote, and that is on me. So I'm not prepared to make a vote, hence the reason why I'd like a postpone. And I believe in doing so, it'll give time for the board to have some additional comments on these suggestions as well.
Okay, could we maybe yes, Madam Clerk.
If you don't mind, I can explain a little bit more about that particular. So this ordinance, this Title II, was worked on and developed since last year. Okay, so the ordinance draft that went to PACCAB last week at their meeting would be a new consideration for council to look at just section 2.30 for PACCAB specifically. So the version that PACCAB saw last week was not the version that they're going to get at their next meeting, I'll say, for consideration. So if you approve this, it's just straightforward recodification from myself, from the attorneys when they reviewed, from the manager, from the department heads. But what the assistant city manager is working with PACCAB on, and they'll get, is this version to then consider, do they want to make any changes to it? And then it would come back to you for another review and approval. It's a timing issue with this. This was already underway when that was presented. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
And
Councilmember
may I?
Wells.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So what you're saying is that basically we vote this evening, it goes then again, it's still a work in progress. The PACCAB gets to see a revised edition,
Right.
revision.
So PACCAB would be presented at the next meeting, which is the 15th, no, which is
March 1st.
March 1st.
I'm sorry, the special meeting's on the 15th.
Right, okay. So they'll actually work on this language if you enact this ordinance, and they'll review and provide recommendations to update this language.
Okay, well, thank you. So in that case, I'd like to remove my motion.
Does the second agree?
I'll second.
Thank you for that explanation, because I'm not sure I understood that completely either, and it seems, but you'll have, it sounds like
Trust that.
they'll have, a chance to offer their explanations.
And just also, there is no change recommended to the mission, no changes are recommended to the mission or the scope of duties in here. It's really, the language relates to, one, removing the continuation requirement, because let's assume that PACAB will continue in the future. There was an annual renewal that had to happen every year. So I don't think it's infringing on the duties or the mission.
Okay, well, we've closed the public hearing already, I'm so sorry. Other council, yes.
Just,
Assistant
Madam Mayor, if I
Superintendent.
may, just to add on to what the clerk was mentioning, the other section that is being added here is 3.30217, which reflects the same verbiage that we added to Title II regarding the Planning and Zoning Commission last year, just clarifying staff assistance. So the goal of this is to bring code up to reflect what is currently taking place. Just as an example, 2.30310B indicates that there's a chair and a vice chair, where currently code doesn't indicate that there's a vice chair, but PACAB is historically operated with a recognized chair and vice chair. So this ordinance just gets us up to reflect what is currently taking place, and so I don't think that there's any harm in updating the code as such. And then again, we're going to continue to bring standalone ordinances after the board has had an opportunity to look at the code and offer further updates.
Okay, thank you. That all being said, are there other questions or comments from council? Okay, Madam Clerk, I believe we're ready to vote.
Voting on the enactment of ordinance 2023-002. Wells?
Yes.
Finch? Yes. Osenga?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That ordinance has been enacted.
Okay. Thank you. And this brings us to our second and final public hearing tonight. It's a resolution, Resolution 2023-013. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, could you please read that?
Resolution 2023-013 is approving an agreement with Kenai Mountain Public Media Incorporated for joint use of the city's satellite receiving dish, equipment shelter, and tower located on lots 9, 10, and 11, Block 16, original town site of Seward, for FM radio receiving and transmitting purposes.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve and a second, please.
I move for the approval of Resolution 2023-013.
I'll second.
Okay, and administration, do you have some comments on this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple brief comments, and then I'm going to ask George, who knows way more about this than I do. I guess I would just say that this lease has been worked on since middle of July by Brooks and the folks at KMPM as well. It's taken a little bit longer to get this to you than we had anticipated, but and then I'll turn it over to George, and George is simultaneously wearing the hat of an IT staff member for the city, and he's also on the KMPM board, and George is a much smarter man than I am about the technology, so I'll ask George to kind of speak to what this is going to do for KMPM.
Okay. And we do need your name.
Yes. I am George Odell, within city limits. As Stephen mentioned, I am a board member of Kenai Mountains Public Media. What we are attempting to accomplish with the lease is to be able to have our 106.1 FM translator for 91.7 housed there, and also be able to use the facility to continue broadcasting the ARC's TV service. Is there any questions? Sorry.
I think that's good for now, and then we might call you back up, okay? After
Okay.
the public hearing.
Alrighty.
That'd be all right? Okay, and did you have any additional comments?
No, Madam Mayor, we don't.
Okay. Then I'll open the public hearing now for Resolution 2023-013. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed in?
Madam Mayor, I don't have anyone signed in.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak? Looks like we have one. Here we go. Then we'll need your name again.
My name is Wolf Kurtz, and I'm also on the board of KMPM, Kenai Mountains Public Media. And I'm just going to go through these comments, which there are copies up front. I'll hand this over to George so he can, oh, there we go, he's got one. So relative to this proceeding, Kenai Mountains Public Media, doing business as Seward Public Radio, is licensee of 91.7 KIBH FM Seward, as well as a 106.1 FM translator or booster, which repeats 91.7 over 106.1 to provide signal to areas that the 91.7 FM signal does not reach. Approval of this resolution will allow Seward Public Radio to locate 106.1 FM downtown and fill in gaps where the 91.7 FM signal is non-existent, weak, or suffers interference from other radio transmitters. KMPM/Seward Public Radio is also licensee of high-definition digital television channel 7, which is now serving viewers and listeners all over Seward and Bear Creek. This currently operating HDTV Channel 7 transmitter is also located at the City of Seward site specified in this resolution and agreement. Through the use of satellite dish facilities at the City of Seward site herein, KMPM/Seward Public Radio will also be offering enhanced satellite-based emergency alert system services to the Seward area via our radio and television signals. Kenai Mountains Public Media is an all-volunteer 501c3 Alaska nonprofit corporation, and Alaska Natives and women form a majority on our corporate board of directors. KMPM Seward Public Radio is based in Seward and Bear Creek, and all of our board members, volunteers, and contributors are local residents. And thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be available.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this? Come on up.
Becky Dunn, Inside the City. I'm also on the board. And I just wanted to do a quick mention that even though we air the council meetings, there's a lot of places in town, including the immediate area and area of the hospital, that you can't sit in your car and listen to the radio and listen to the council meeting. So just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, then I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. I have an amendment I'd like to make, and this was based on discussion, I believe, with administration and George. I'd like to add a whereas, and I'm moving to add a second whereas after the first whereas. And it would say, whereas, in addition to the usage for radio, the equipment will be used for the purpose of transmitting a television signal, and put the "and" in for the next one. Do you want me to read that again?
Yeah, you can pass it when you're done. That would be great.
I made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And I'll explain that I was asked to do this because, just for the emphasis, there would be a television usage of this also. And would you, Mr. Assistant City Manager, like to say anything about this?
Actually, I'll turn it over to George to articulate that, probably how that would be utilized.
Okay. And we need your name again.
Sorry, George.
For the record.
Yep. George Odell, Inside City Limits, KMPM board member. Hello. So, I wanted to be sure that there was a mention of TV, of the television service within the lease, well, within the, at least the resolution. Just to say there is TV service that we are providing, because it seemed like the lease and the resolution was very radio-centric. So that was the focus behind that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there questions from council? Comments? Are we ready to vote on the amendment? Okay, Madam Clerk, on the amendment,
Voting
please.
on the amendment to add a new second whereas. Osenga?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That amendment is approved and your main motion is back on the floor.
Discussion about the main motion. Questions, comments? Are we ready to vote? Okay, Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote on the main motion.
Voting on the approval of resolution 2023-013 as amended. Calhoun?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Okay, so you have it. Moving along, we have no unfinished business, we have no new business. We have some reports, minutes from the boards and commissions that are in the packet, perhaps?
Nope.
No, they're not. That's
Nope.
just listed here
Correct.
as part of our standard thing. It always throws me because there's no numbers there. Okay, and so now we're down already to citizens' comments. This is the segment at the end. There's no sign up for this, but time is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Come on up. I was wondering why you were here.
Two reasons. First of all, I'd like to thank...
We need your name.
Oh, I'm Tom Tugas, Inside City Limits.
Thank you.
208 Bear Drive. First of all, I'd like to thank you for approving the radio station. I want to commend them. They provide a very important service to the community. I mean, when we have tsunami warnings, we seem to get more information from Wolf than we can out of anybody else. And so I want to say thank you for the service that they and their board provide as volunteers. So that's number one. That's not why I'm here. The second thing is, I was here in 2000 when we voted on the Homer Electric purchase, and I voted in favor of it, and I was personally very disappointed that it didn't pass. And it did pass. And one of my questions is, it passed by 52% of the residents of Seward voted in favor of it, but it required 60%. So I don't know if that's the case again this time, if it requires 60%. I think that needs to be publicized, that the majority, because in 2000, the majority of us voted in favor of it, but it still failed because it wasn't 60%. And I don't know if a lot of people understand that, but there were a number of comments that he made, things about, new regulations, compliance. There's just no way that a small utility with 10 employees can really comply with all the new regulations, and whether it's banking or whatever. There's just so much compliance requirements to utilities. I personally am very much in favor of joining a bigger utility. I think that our community will get better service. I like this comment about go big or go home on renewables. I was over in Kodiak. I didn't really understand what he said about wind generation, because in Kodiak, they're getting 20% of their power from wind generation in Kodiak. So, I know I know that Homer Electric has a program for heat pumps. That means less diesel burned in Seward. So there's just a lot of, the last time there was a lot of kind of negative disinformation that went on that caused people not to vote in favor of joining Homer Electric. And I look back, that was 23 years ago, and I say, how much further along would we be if we had voted for it, or had 60% of the voters vote for it 23 years ago. And so I
want people to, I realize that there's part of the problem 3 years ago was there wasn't a lot of good information, there was a lot of disinformation, and I'm really excited that they're trying to do an information forum, and I really encourage people to learn about it. I'm gonna go to the listening sessions, but you know, like I say, I was really disappointed 23 years ago when it failed, and I really hope that it passes this time, because I think it'll be good for the Seward community, and that's all I want to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue.
Who else wants to speak at this point? Anyone? Anyone? Come on, Tim. And then we'll get you this. And we'll need your name and all that again for the
What's
record.
that?
We'll need your name for the record again.
This is so different. You can't see the people's faces when you're sitting in the audience now, or you could see them before. Tim McDonald, Inside City Limits. My biggest question, that we didn't have a question and answer day for Homer Electric, is whether they're going to allow net metering. Nobody said anything about it, but we've had businesses leave Seward because we wouldn't allow them net metering, which is the law that we do. I'm sure there was regulations, but you know, that's the big question. A lot of people want to generate their own electricity, or as much as they can. Anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about something personal. I was born and raised in Seward. I was 7 years old in the '64 earthquake, 7 years and 45 days. And, you know, I've lived and worked in here most of my life. I have a large RV park on Nash Road, as most of you probably know. And I started that not because I wanted to be in the RV business, but because there was a huge salmon run right beside us that people insisted. I was getting 100 people a day knocking on my door asking me if they could park in the front yard and go fishing. So at some point you just see the handwriting on the wall and go into business. When I set up the business, you know, I always collected all my money outside city limits. My pay shack was outside there, my signage, my dump station, my water, all outside of city limits, so I've always operated that way. And several years ago, with the last city manager and assistant city manager, they called me and said, hey, it seems like you're mostly in the city, and I reiterated that to them, and then I never heard anything more from them, so I figured it was settled. That was the city manager and assistant city manager that quit and left on the same day with no notice. So anyway, that's come up again, and it's become a big thing. The community development department contacted me at the start of the summer, and basically it's been an ongoing saga, and I've dealt with it. I didn't feel it was fair in the fact that they hit me with 3 or 4 different issues, never so much as a phone call, just demand letters, you know, and then letters fining and things like this. And so, you know, I've complied. I put a letter in your packet about this and stuff, but I'm just kind of disappointed, you know. Been here all our lives, and there was never anything that couldn't be settled with a phone call between the city and my parents or myself. I like to be a team later, but we're at odds. We've been put in that situation, and you know, I don't really like it. I just turned 65 3 weeks ago, and I've been planning to retire. I've put my property up for sale. It's looking pretty good, and basically I want to offer it to the city. One of the main reasons is because it's kind of a public thing. You know, I don't think I could close the place if I want to. They'd bust down the doors. You know, I don't want to try to stop the public from coming through my land and accessing the fishing. There is 2 other access points, but they're inferior. And so that's been the big thing, and it's, you know, huge fishery that happens all at once for 4 or 5, 6 weeks, and then it's done until we get some silvers. And like I said, I've always been a borough business, but now I've been presented either join the city or close down, so I closed early. And I don't want to compete with the city. I'm too old, I'm not going to do it. But I want to offer it for sale to the city of Seward, because I think that's in the best public interest. It'll save, me further angst and whatnot. I was thinking, well, if I don't have this solved by the sockeye season in May, I'll just have to let everybody in free and make sure I don't take any money. Maybe I'm not a business then and I can still accommodate the public. That's about my only choice at this point. I'm not going to join the city. I don't think it's fair, and they didn't approach me in a friendly manner. So I have a current survey appraisal for the property. It was done, completed about 5 months ago, and I will turn that to the city clerk. And it's got the property values, whatnot on it, and the city is welcome to do it, to buy the property with no prejudice. I think would be a good addition to your RV park system. If anybody has any questions on it, with your permission, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
We can talk later. We don't have questions right now, so. Anyone else wishing to speak? Bruce put his hand up first. Once again, we get to see Bruce sit down.
Bruce Jaffa, outside city limits. I think you did good work here tonight. Thank council and administration for dealing with the topics. The Homer Electric sale obviously is one that's going to be in front of us. And not just the city of Seward is going to be affected by this, but all the East Peninsula, what I call the East Peninsula Economic District. We hope in Moose Pass to invite Homer Electric to present to our Advisory Planning Commission regarding how that sale may impact Moose Pass. We recognize there are a lot of residents of Moose Pass that work in Seward and have friends and family in Seward, so I think it'd be important for them to understand that, along with the Kenai Hydro project that Homer Electric is pursuing on Grant Lake. It has a lot of impact for Moose Pass. I would like to thank everybody from Seward that came out to the Moose Pass Winter Festival last weekend. It was a huge success. I think they counted 50 cars in the parking lot in the winter. The weather was reasonable, and they didn't get everything done, but they got a lot done. I'd speak on a topic of wages. A couple meetings ago, I spoke against the holiday rate. It's not because I was against raising wages. I'm not. I'm in favor of making wages come to parity. In our company, our union employees just got 4 or 5% raises this year. That's what they were looking at. I think that when I look at retaining employees, we pay many of our employees more than the minimum wages. A lot of times employers can enhance wages on performance. Good performance gets bonuses and things like that. The structures of union agreements don't always allow that, but I think the employees that we're talking about, particularly emergency service employees, deserve special consideration. They do a heck of a job. They put themselves on the line for our community, and I think that I think they had a representative here speak earlier, speaking in their favor, and I would certainly support any effort to find their compensation package in parity. And the last thing, I think our hearts all go out to the earthquake victims in Turkey and Syria. Looking at the pictures closely as a construction guy, and reading the reports of the 130 people or so that have been currently under arrest or being pursued for code violations, it makes me appreciative of codes. Our company works to some of the most stringent codes in the country, the ASME pressure vessel codes. When I do work here in the city or anywhere else, we deal with codes. I can only thank my lucky stars that a group of people have put together codes, and other people have called for them to be enforced as a matter of law. The enforcement issues that were talked about, I think by the attorney, is clear. Just writing legislation only keeps good people honest, there does need to be an enforcement activity. And I think it's something that has come to the attention of everybody in the last couple months or weeks, that, good law requires enforcement.
Thank you. And who else wants to speak? Come on up.
That's one standing. Sitting.
Sitting.
Wolfgang Kurtz again, outside city limits, mayor, council, administration, neighbors. I'd like to thank you, administration, for helping us get past this hurdle on this. It's been a long time coming. It's been several administrations since I first cast my eye on specifically the TV side of things, but been a lot of water into the bridges and over the runway, and et cetera. But yeah, so I'd like to offer thanks, and there's plenty of work ahead on this. This specifically, the radio-centric part of this project that George was referring to, the 106.1 translator, that was the subject of a 2019 or 2020 Alaska Community Foundation through the Seward Community Foundation grant. We're running a little bit behind, but thanks to getting this on the agenda tonight and get this through, we're going to be able to patch that all up and get this project finished. Our next project is a TV transmitter for Bear Creek. So we've got the Channel 7 operating here downtown, and we have another one lined up to go be installed out in Bear Creek. That would be the former Channel 3. We actually took Channel 3, converted it to Channel 17, and moved it out to Bear Creek. So we'll cover the whole community more than once, and we'll pick up everybody else that can't currently get Channel 7. And then next, we just submitted for another Seward Community Foundation grant for this upcoming year, which is yet to be decided on, for actually doing the local origination. So right now, what we're doing on the TV side of things is we're broadcasting ARCS, which is the Alaska Rural Communications System. It's the way we've got it configured right now, it's 4 separate channels within Channel 7. So when you tune into Channel 7, there's 4 different video things you can watch. And the subject of our grant request this year is we're going to take that and add at least 1 local channel. This is an all-volunteer organization, so we do what we can. But we want to get the scanner channel back, and we want to be able to put the borough and the council, whatever happens here in this room, on video also. And then if, we can do more than that, it's just, it's just a couple bucks, and it's mostly knob twiddling or keyboard punching, so it's a lot. It's technical stuff, and George and I and the rest of our geeky guys, everybody else keeps us busy, so we're just stretched then too, along with everybody else. So once again, want to say thanks, and look forward to bigger and better things, including getting 91.7 covered through 106.1 downtown here, fill in all the gaps. So, and the folks over in SMIC that can't really get 91.7, it's kind of scratchy over there too. So this is really going to help out across the board, and then we're also going to be able to use the satellite to bring more further redundancy to the emergency alert system into the community, be able to monitor more signals, and bring in more programming too. The sky's the limit, but it always boils down to manpower and money. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, that brings it back to council. Oh, sorry. I'm seeing you now. I just didn't see a hand, sorry.
Becky Dunn. That's like when I was too short to see over the school bus seat and they would drive by my stop. And I'd be waving. But believe it or not saying anything back then.
So we need your name and in or out again.
Becky Dunn, inside the city. And we heard from the 2 techie dudes, so now you get to hear the one that screws up everything and they fix it. If you get a TV antenna, they're like $50, or you can buy one on the internet or somewhere. We actually have them too. And the cable, you can receive the 4 channels and get the local news. And so I have them out at the store at Not So Fast if anybody wants it. In fact, I talked to, where's Bob? Bob about it. And so far, so you get the local Anchorage news, and eventually, like Wolf said, we'll have a local scanner like people used to advertise. When I had Christmas trees, that's all I advertised it on. And city council meetings, so we need another Martha. So hopefully somebody will step up and do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That pretty much went through everyone here. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, for sure. I'll bring it back to council and administration's comments and responses to citizens' comments. Now I'll go to administration first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quickly, I just wanted to thank council and the public. As always, I think sometimes we get so busy and caught up that we forget to celebrate the wins. And Jeanette, if you walk into our office, we've got on both of our whiteboards, celebrate the wins. So we're working on selling the electric utility. We're working on building a new Lowell Creek diversion tunnel. We're working on building a new public works shop. I just want to thank this community and thank the members at the dais that in the 3 years that I've been in Seward, we've never been this busy and productive, and that wouldn't happen without the community pulling forward and everybody at the dais. And I really feel like we're working in sync and reading off the same sheet of music. So thank you, council, for making this all possible, and look forward to a productive year ahead. And thankfully, I haven't talked to my boss in about a week, which is good because she's a workaholic, and I'm glad to see that I'm not getting emails and texts from her work phone anyway. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's start with Councilmember Wells.
Well, thank you to all the citizens' comments, and I really want to express my thanks to Homer Electric. You know, I wasn't here when the sale was proposed in the past, but Homer Electric kept saying if they were the ones nominated to pursue the purchase, that they would be informing the community and making those steps, and they really are. And so I'm looking forward to these events. So if you have any questions, the community, or concerns about the Homer Electric request to purchase, definitely check out their document Stronger Together with the dates, and I'm sure I'll see the community at least a couple of these dates. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeMoss.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Homer Electric for being here as well. I think it's very exciting, and I am glad that someone pointed out the 60%. I think we need to make sure everybody knows that. They really need to get out and vote and educate themselves, and not just rely on hearsay, and really find out the answers to their questions with this. I think that it really is the way to go for Seward. Mr. Jaffa, I am so behind you on the special assessment district for sidewalk maintenance. I think that it's something that could be an incentive for businesses to be open year-round. I'm on the side of the street where all the snow gets blowing on my sidewalk, so I totally get it. It's hard not to get irritated with folks who don't maintain their sidewalk, with those that do, when we're trying to be open year-round. But then it's hard, it's like, I did my sidewalk, and 5 minutes later I had snow on it, and I was like, I don't care, I'm done. So I get it. And I think that, if we really do want to be a year-round community, we do need to take that step and initiative, because it's just not going to happen any other way. Although I did want to thank administration. It was on the consent agenda, and I kind of missed it because it was a big meeting last time where we approved, I think it's Metco who came forward with the bid to do cleanup on owners that aren't maintaining their own properties. So I'm glad that we're finally taking the initiative to just get it done one way or another. So thank you for doing that. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Finch.
I just want to thank HEA and Wolf and everything they've done with that radio station over the years. I've sat many a nights listening to them with earthquakes, and stand at the end of the driveway to keep the out-of-towners from panicking in the valley. So quite entertaining. And a special public reminder to all husbands and boyfriends: no excuse. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. So thank you.
Councilmember Calhoun.
Just a couple of things. I think it's great, all the stuff that's going on at the library. I think a lot of activities happening there, and Bailey should be commended for a lot of the work they've got going. Radio station's great. I think we're all happy to have that local flavor to go to, and very informative a lot of times. And one thing that was on the consent agenda, just wanted to bring that out again, was the money that is being moved now, that has been donated for the animal shelter. And people have been asking me about that and wondering, where is it, what's going on? Did we, spend it on some new tires or something? And it's there for you, and it's going to do the job that everybody's wanted it to do, so that's a good thing. And one thing, and I'm sure I'll be corrected, because I am getting older. 23 years ago, we had a vote, if I'm not mistaken, and I should have checked on this before I opened my mouth, but somebody will correct me. The vote that was taken back then about Homer Electric was an advisory vote because the council wanted to know whether it should pursue that sale with Homer Electric. I don't believe, if I remember, that it was an actual vote to sell it. It was an advisory vote to give the council more information whether we wanted to allow Homer Electric to continue the process to get to a point where the community would actually vote to sell it or not. And I think I agree with Mr. Tugas. I don't think there was enough education for the community done last time. We had one community meeting at the high school auditorium where Homer Electric came and gave a presentation. And there was, probably 30 or 40 people there, but not nearly as much as you would have liked to have seen. And so I think that this time Homer Electric is more into what they're doing, because what actually happened last time is the council voted not to move any further forward. And if I'm not mistaken, that vote was 6-1. We won't say who the one was, but I'm still kind of in favor in pursuing that. So, so I think the fact that we've got a much stronger education process going on to get people to understand exactly the pros and cons both ways is really going to be beneficial, and I'm looking forward to this whole process playing out again, and everybody getting all their questions and concerns answered before May 2nd. So, and everybody have a happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Osenga.
Pretty much everyone said what I was going to say. Don't forget Valentine's Day. And also tomorrow, don't forget to vote for our Kinder Peninsula Borough Mayor in a special election. And again, everyone's touched on it, but do try to get educated and take advantage of these events that HEA is putting forward. I think it's very important that everyone knows what's going on, or what they're thinking and what we're thinking. And the radio station, yeah, I'm glad that passed. I'm glad that this might address some issues, because I do work where it cuts out. And so it's a little annoying sitting there going, okay, well, I'll move. But anyways, thank you, everybody.
That's it. Okay, well, I have a couple things, all that they said, of course. I appreciate HEA coming and doing their presentation, and I really want to encourage people to go to at least one of the listening sessions and presentations that they have listed. And if anybody doesn't know when those are, I'm sure you're going to be hearing about it. They're out there everywhere. I just wanted to mention that last Saturday, the Saturday before last, we had a council retreat. So all of the council members and administration, it was advertised, but administration, the city clerk, and council, and we spent a day. We've been doing this like about once a year. And a part of it is just an overview again of how things are supposed to run, the rules and Robert's rules particularly. We learned about Robert. But it's a good time to get to know the new council members, and I have to say we've got a really good group of people up here, including Bob, who's not here right now. So I'm very proud of this council. Happy about the radio station. I love local radio. You guys probably know that. Valentine's Day, I usually say bah humbug to that and stay home with my cat, but I wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. don't forget to vote. I saw on TV before I came in, it's the Channel 2, I guess, they had, from Anchorage, they had an overview, they had a little blurb from each of the candidates, each of the 4. So if you catch the news at 10, it'll probably be on there, if you haven't decided who to vote for yet. But it's important to vote for borough mayor, because we need to do that. I have something to read to you. I was going to do this, wait until Jeanette's back from her trip, but I received a little card from, actually I know this person, she's a friend, but it was to the mayor, council, administration, and everybody. I'm just going to read it. Just want to let the city and the council know how much I appreciated the effort that was made to decorate our town. Made me smile and lifted my spirits. I won't read her name, but that's nice to get a personal handwritten note from somebody, and I'm still excited about our Christmas decorations. So I think with that, I have a note. Oh, and yes, thank you, and I should have thought of that. Great work, Dive Alaska, on cleaning up the harbor, and I know there's more gunk down there, so it is an ongoing thing. I know my son did a lot of diving in the harbor, so he's pretty aware of the gunk down there from the past, but good job. Okay, with that, that ends this part of the meeting, and I need to ask a question of the clerk. If I want to take a 10-minute break, should we take the break and then move to go into executive session, or should we move to go in and then just take a break?
That's the way we typically do it, like motion to go into
Okay,
executive session
that would be all right.
following a 5 or 10 minute recess.
Okay,
Yep.
then I will do that. Actually, I'll move to go into executive session per Seward City Code 2.10.033E2. Subjects that tend to prejudice the reputation and character of any person, provided the person may request a public discussion, and this is for this annual city clerk evaluation. And I need a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion about that? We need to vote on that, correct? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Voting on moving into executive session. Osenga?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes,
That
and
motion is approved.
thank you. And in the executive session, when we convene, it will be the city clerk and the council members. That will be it. And now, if it's okay with everyone, we'll take a 10-minute break just to get reorganized. Thank you. So, we're ending now. And